and welcome to tonight's special edition of Our Triple Story. Today's guest is Richie Quigley, a rural cotton farmer in the Macquarie Valley, central western New South Wales. He works with his brothers Tom and George on the Munfam farm, which has been the Quigley family for 125 years. Their farm is both an irrigation and dryland farm. The farm grows 500 hectares of cotton, as well as about 2,200 hectares of winter crops, which include wheat, canola and chickpeas. They also have 1,500 breeding ewes and 150 cows. Earlier today I met with Richie to find out just what he does as a farmer and how he goes about his business of providing our community with the food and fibre we often take for granted.
Or would you let me drop and squash me with your shoe? Please make me do something with the bright blue stripes so I can wipe your tears, baby, when you cry. If you were a cotton bud, would you pick me too?
Growing up on a farm, I've always been exposed to agriculture for as long as I can remember. And since then, I've developed a love for it from a very young age. Well, there really are no typical days, as farming relies heavily on seasons and things change with the seasons. So I suppose you're never really doing the same thing for more than a month or so at a time. So that's that's quite a positive thing about it as well. It's quite hard to get sick of it because you're always changing what you're doing. The best thing about being a farmer is being proud of being able to produce food and fibre that's feeding and clothing people in not only Australia but the world. My least favourite part of the job is probably having to justify why we're allowed to produce food and fibre to feed people. I think it's quite sad that we actually have to justify providing basic needs to people. Our water comes from Burrendong Dam, which is about 150 kilometres upstream of the river from our pump site. And then we pump it out of the river into a series of channels that then deliver it to the farmer's gate. These channels have actually, or as part of the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, we've been granted money by the government to help restructure the channels and lay them with a rubber liner to reduce losses from 27% back to about 7%. So that's quite a remarkable thing for us, and we split the water savings with the government. We get half the water savings and the government get the other half. So that's quite a good result of the Murray-Darling Basin Plan, as it's going to keep our community alive. And cotton is an opportunity crop, I suppose, so the availability of water is key to growing it. If we don't have the water, we simply can't grow it. So yeah, it really is due to the season, depending on the season and how much water is available is whether or not we can grow the crop. Some of the biggest challenges we face as cotton farmers is government involvement and influence. Things like the Murray-Darling Basin Plan and the carbon tax can provide quite restraining systems for us. Like if water's coming out of our community or out of our river systems, it can make it a lot harder. Also, the unpredictable nature makes it quite difficult. We went for about 7 years without growing a cotton crop due to the unavailability of water, and that's quite savage on cotton growers because half your assets are water, and if you can only use half of your assets, being the land, to make a return across your whole assets, it makes it quite a difficult system to run. The majority of Australia's cotton, or pretty much all of it, gets sold to overseas buyers. A lot of it goes to China, a little bit goes to India and Thailand. Well, the majority goes between those three countries, I suppose. Well, mining, it obviously has a huge impact on the area that is actually being mined, especially like the immediate area, because land can never be the same once it's been dug up and then tried to be replaced. It's simply never the same, and it could have been land that could have produced food or fibre for hundreds of years into the future. So I think the immediate effects are quite devastating, and I think the surrounding farms also suffer from dust and other things. Also, the mining of coal seam gas throughout the Murray-Darling Basin actually has quite a big impact, or can have the potential to have quite a big impact, because of the fracking, or the way that they retrieve the gas from the ground uses a lot of chemicals, and if these chemicals get into the water table and spread throughout it, if they got into the Great Artesian Basin, it'd be devastating because it covers such a large area of Australia, like a fifth of Australia, and there are so many farmers that are dependent on it. I think it would be absolutely devastating to Western sort of Queensland and New South Wales. So I think a lot more research needs to be done into fracking and the way they pull the gas out of the seams to make it more viable in the future. I think the carbon tax in the future will have a reasonable impact on the cotton industry. Firstly, cotton when it's ginned requires a lot of heat and requires heat, which is from propane and energy to clean the cotton and then to remove the seed from the lint. And this process, as I said, requires a lot of electricity, and the electricity costs will make ginning a lot more expensive in the future. And so I think between that and diesel, I think will eventually become part of the carbon tax, which cotton farmers do use a bit of diesel to be able to run their run machinery and those sorts of things. But also, my last point was fertilisers. I think the production of fertilisers is an expensive, not expensive. Expensive is the wrong word. Is an energy. It requires a lot of energy to produce these fertilisers, which we need vitally. So it's between those three things, I think these increased costs and the carbon tax will probably make us a little bit more uncompetitive on a global market, because Australia is subject to more costs to produce these items that aren't in other parts of the world. So our bottom line is going to be slightly higher than other countries. So it might make us a little bit more uncompetitive in export markets, which the majority of cotton is exported. So I think it will have quite a big impact on the cotton industry in the future.
That's our show for today. If you want to know more about cotton, go to the Cotton Australia website. For more information, keep an eye out for the De La Salle Catholic College's Archibald Prize entry. You can also go to the blog by going to the URL on the screen.